And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to The Turning Point for ITN Sri Lanka. The Turning Point, 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Live usually from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And we always have a guest who has your interest at heart. And tonight is no different. We have a very special guest tonight, known to most of the country, I'm sure. And we're deeply grateful to the fact that he's managed to clear some space in his otherwise very busy schedule. And he is, of course, the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, the Honourable Dinesh Gunawardena. Good evening, sir, and thank you very much for being on the program.
Good evening.
Thank you, and we really do appreciate the fact that you've taken time out. I don't think many people, it strikes many people that you do lead a rather busy life.
Yeah, always busy. Holding office is also loaded with responsibilities. So obviously, as you mentioned, very little time, and now it's an election period, which adds more.
It adds more pressure.
Very much.
But once in a way, it's even if it is only to relax or to take your mind off things, it's perhaps a good idea to go down memory lane. And I was thinking the other day, but I have been thinking about this all the time, but there must be something about that school, because obviously I went to the other school, but there must be something about that school, about that particular classroom, in which three people became kind of the leading lights of the political world in our country. And we had Gunawardena, and then we had the present President, Ranil Wickremesinghe, and you, the Prime Minister. Did you ever think, all those years ago, when you all were there, that you'd end up on maybe politically oceans apart, but did you ever think that you all would be playing lead roles at various times in your political careers? Did you ever think that might happen?
Mr. Paras, primary days we were together in the same classroom, late Gunawardena, President Ranil Wickremesinghe and myself. Of course, thereafter we moved into Royal College. Still, we meet daily because we are in this class together. That's the growing time when we remember the events taking place. Primary days we remember all activity, cultural, sports, literature, etc. all were together, moving together, just as sons and daughters of any other parent. So we had the chance of exchanging, going to the field, taking up sports, soccer or cricket or softball, literature. We had a very leading personality as Royal Principal, H.D. Sugatabala, who pioneered a lot of changes in primary education. So he was also our class teacher at one time. Even recently I showed the President when he came to Royal Primary, the trees we had planted together, both of us, every student had to do it, bringing consciousness of cleanliness as well as environmental interest. Then Royal College, Royal Primary, all the roads were, the sides were full of massive green trees. Later on, moving up, obviously crystallizing more on political thought, we used to have discussions, arguments, also on political issues within our own age limit.
Yes.
We were not in parliament or any other council, but debating teams on different subjects. So Royal has produced a president. Prior to that, we have produced heads of states from Royal, and then late Gunawardena Nayaka, we were all in parliament together, either on the opposition or government benches. We have had a lot of political crisis to which we have contributed, accepting the crisis, but being in the political faith and organizations that we represent. So we had opportunities right through.
And I know that, especially given the fact that you're now the Prime Minister of this country, you've been Cabinet Minister before, and so on. And so there's an element of official secrets which will probably go to the grave with everyone. But I was just dying to ask you this question. You know, when you were in school together, which one of the ones was the most mischievous? Was it Anwar? Was it the President?
The third name would be the best.
The third one?
Third name.
Oh, I see.
Dinesh would have been the most mischievous.
Oh, I see.
I would say, so parents say, so I don't want to comment. Now I have found the mischievous out of the three.
Right.
No, but we've all, on many events, we had to face, and we had to do things that all other school-going children either get late, playing cricket, also mischievous.
But you know that some years later, that one Gunawardena Nayaka introduced a kind of a pet leopard to just outside the cabinet room, I think here in Temple Trees, only for the leopard to come searching for its master, except when there was a cabinet meeting going on, and I think it was the Minister of Labour who felt something touch his sandals from under the table, and he was in full speech, so he moved his leg and he carried on, and it happened again. So then he lifted his thing and he had a look, and there was a leopard, and all of a sudden the cabinet sort of emptied because everyone went helter-skelter, but the poor leopard was only looking for Anwar. You must have known about this story. There was the height of mischievousness?
Very much. So many such experience. Even as parliamentarian, and I was on and off up to this mischievous behavior on us or others, which we all enjoyed.
Indeed.
We didn't panic because we were 8 in the opposition when he was leader of the opposition.
Yes.
I was with him as opposition member. And Speaker has pulled us up a couple of times.
But eventually, maturity must have set in, because if we remember the late Gunawardena Nayaka, one of the most important things he did when he was Speaker was he spoke about the supremacy of Parliament. Do you fully agree with that sentiment?
Yes, I agree with that. But Parliament also has delegated certain authority under the constitutional provisions for other judiciary authorities, etc. But supremacy of Parliament is something we have all protected and we have to protect, because that is a representative of the people of our country. Representative of the people have been entrusted under the Constitution to protect certain clauses on behalf of the people, because all the people cannot assemble. This is the basis of the principle. So I think that is a very good principle on which Anura delivered a historic decision when certain parties were trying to have inroads to parliament powers. But that does not mean that we are solely acting without consideration on any serious matter. There are so many commissions now, not like those days, empowered by the Constitution. Certain constitutional rights given to them, like the Constitutional Council, various subcommittees that are coming to Parliament. So times seem to be moving to meet the future. The young generation is participating in the committee system. That was President Ranil Wickremesinghe's proposal, which Parliament accepted. They participate and give their views in committee, so that the permanent parliamentary members could understand, hear the views of day-to-day problems also, or serious decisions to be made should be considered. So Anura also had a great role to play, is to quote from many books. Similar, President Ranil Wickremesinghe, they were both well read, I must say, well read. Among our generation of parliamentarians, I would say they were outstanding. So that is one added thing for a parliamentarian.
Indeed.
Otherwise, you might depend on A and B when you go to quote from various parliamentary, political or foreign affairs statements, etc., on any other matter. So, but so Mr. Bandaranaike was always getting people to come when he's going to speak. The message goes. The media and everyone enjoys.
Indeed.
And Anura also enjoyed. After his speech, he used to always keep the door open in his office. Everyone walks in, pro as well as against. The interesting personality.
Sorely missed? Did you miss him?
Yeah, we always see him, we on and off. We talk, the president and myself, and also instances of Anura's decisions, his speeches, we give to members and cabinet members, because very few of them have associated the former leader of the opposition, later speaker, and then also short time he was minister also in that cabinet member of the government. So that was the personality we had the chance of working with.
Indeed. I'd just like to move on a bit into more matters more current. But I also wanted to say to you that three people in the same classroom politically end up in different oceans apart, really. You went your way. But there is actually one point, in fact, sorry I didn't bring it before, so let's do that now. When you went to China recently as Prime Minister, you were treated, I know that as a Prime Minister visiting another country, there is a certain diplomatic norm and a certain way one is treated and so on. But I detected, and some people in the know spoke about it, it was that Dinesh Gunawardena was treated rather specially in China. Is there, I'm told that there is some family connection to the relationship between the Gunawardenas and China, and the Chinese didn't forget it. Is that about right? Your family known a long time to the Chinese people, not just because you're the Prime Minister.
Yeah, very much. I think before the Chinese victorious revolution in 1949, my father had associated Zhou and Lai in France, and they were signatories to common documents at the time. Being in the political movements, in Europe, the left movement, etc. And also with the Communist Party of China as a result, the relations were always good. Because, of course, Philip Gunawardena, my father, was not a Communist Party member.
Yeah.
But he was a, I would say, highly advanced political figure who had enough friends all over the world, who later on succeeded as heads of states, etc. In China, when the Chinese government was recognized with the Rice-Rubber Pact.
Yes.
Yeah, my mother was in Parliament, and she had been the president of the Ceylon China Friendship Society, the first president.
Oh, I see.
With the Chinese appreciate whichever party, political party.
Yes.
These were the organizations, so many parliamentarians later on, initially making the groundwork for close relations with China. In the MAP government of 56, Philip Gunawardena was Minister of Agriculture, and further relations with the Chinese government. We recognized diplomatic relations were given. We are one of the few countries that recognized China at that time. And he was invited to China as Minister Agriculture Food, on and off. So more than the official status, we know some of them by name, some of the office they hold, etc., which added on, I feel, to my visit, because officially as Prime Minister, I represented Sri Lanka, certain work to do, had a delegation of parliamentary and state ministers. They were very friendly.
The widely read and astute classmate, now the president, must surely have known about this history.
Yeah, definitely, he knows history, and he had read. I feel sorry for one book he was quoting all that library, the rich library he had,
Yes.
burnt down. Why did anyone want to burn library? Of course, he has lost
It
the
is
most,
as sad as the burning down of the Jaffna Library.
very much. Valuable copies of many documents, which were rare, was in his library and available to anyone else. When Philip, N.M. and Colin were jailed by the British and kept in the Bogara prison, his father, President's father, used to give books on Trotskyism to party members to be sent to jail to read. So it was a rich library. One cannot imagine. I don't think any politician would be able to say yes to this kind of activity which took place and brought about our government. Our government on the day fell, and he was called upon to form the government as Prime Minister, elected with an overwhelming majority in Parliament to hold the office of President. I think he was the most senior, experienced political figure in Parliament at that time. The closest would have been Mahinda Rajapaksa, but he had already resigned and gone. So we must understand, entrusting people with responsibility, you have to entrust with people who can deliver, not for the sake of entrusting, which the President and former royalists, we feel that he has taken over the heaviest responsibility in unprecedented times in our country and delivered what could have been delivered international.
As a Thomian, I am terribly impressed by this and humbled by the fact that this lone elephant came across and traversed various political oceans and abysses and so on to take on a job that apparently once described as a gigantic mission, and somebody else said no way. But he came through and decided to act Churchillian-like and came through in a crisis. And that brings me nicely to the next bit of this interview, which once again we're terribly grateful for here at ITN, especially because it is that time of the year or that time of the world when we have elections, and so we know that things are at premium and budgets are stretched because ITN is not a drain on the treasury, which is probably good news to the tax-paying public who are always looking to see if everything is above board, and at ITN I'm told that is the case. And so it makes it even more special that you've made this time for us. But I do want to ask you this. So here's this lone elephant who comes forward and he's restored the rule of law, he's cleared the protesters, because you can't carry on with constant protests. And we brought some form of stability economically to the country. On my visits around the island with my producer, we found, apart from the partisan lines, the people all said the same thing, and that is that there are no queues, kanda bonda thino, habai, badu mila wedi. So they're looking for somebody who will drive those prices down. How do you view, I mean, we mustn't forget that you came in and dear Anil, your classmate, colleague in Parliament and so on, got you to be the Prime Minister. That wouldn't have been too easy either, because if you were looking at your own political future and your own political stability and sustainability, you may well have thought, hang on, this is not the time for me to be the Prime Minister. But you didn't. You backed your friend, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know how hard he twisted your arm, whether he did. I don't know. But what do you feel? What did you feel when you became the Prime Minister at the time?
Yeah, far as I was also leader of the House.
Indeed.
And Parliament numbers were, the PA numbers, that is the Pahara numbers, was in majority. And I was the leader of the House whom they had trust. Otherwise I wouldn't have been leader of the House.
Indeed.
When the President went, Prime Minister resigned and went, and as you calls the President's moving up,
Indeed.
the lonely elephant
Yes.
coming up, accepted by all as the most senior experienced person who could handle this crisis situation for Mother Lanka. When others were reluctant, we all supported this and we agreed, and he did make the choice of the leader of the House and put to a group virtually running the numbers in Parliament, though our houses were destroyed. Our member of Parliament was murdered. I must use the word murdered because he was in the hands of the people and they murdered him. The so-called demonstrators. Everyone is responsible. And more were being chased. So the Prime Minister moving in to act as President, Minister of Defence, was able to restore the law and order. Secondly, on the economic difficulties, none of those difficulties as of that day exist today. As of that day, there was no kerosene in the villages that you had met in your travel.
Indeed.
Villages were calling. I remember as Minister of Public Administration, the GAs were calling me across the country to send kerosene first, not petrol. And we were rushing the supplies. President was having emergency meetings. And not only kerosene, diesel, petroleum, everything we were able to restore from that day, slowly, step by step. We moved out of this restricted items where the public were not being able to access. In today, they are all available, running the economy and running the business. Power was limited. Gas is symbol.
Yes.
I'm not canvassing
for that.
For that now,
no.
Because you might take me to the election commission. But he's the symbol.
It's a good job Mako isn't there, but anyway.
Good Mako, whom we had associated long ago.
Of course. Our dear Mako.
All of them did play an important role in difficult times. So everything has been gas, and I must say, travel for the students and opening of schools, everything has moved.
Indeed.
But as you say, the only item is of the, perhaps the question asked is, Kavadada Badu Mila Aduvenni.
On that note, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, let's go for a quick break and see what our commercials have to say. After all, we are the turning point for ITN Sri Lanka. See you after the break. And welcome back to the turning point for ITN Sri Lanka. Our guest today is the Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, the Honourable Dinesh Gunawardena. Once again, Prime Minister, thank you very much for agreeing to be on the turning point. And of course, the turning point, Sri Lanka has been the turning point. It started 2 years ago. What are the steps that your government is taking to recover Sri Lanka from the economic crisis and to move forward to the future with the eye towards the fiscal health of our country?
You are questioning about the Badu Miller.
Yes.
Not Badu. Badu is in supply.
Yes, Badu.
You accept
yes.
that?
Yes, of course.
Right. So
Miller
is the issue. මිල වැඩි කියලා. නමුත් මිල අඩු කරන්න පටන් ගෙන තියෙනවා ගිය අවුරුද්දේ ඉඳලා. අපි ඒකත් අමතක කළ යුතු නෑ. කීයද මිල භූමි තෙල් වල අඩු කරලා තියෙනවා. තවත් අඩු කරන්න පුළුවන් ෆෝමියුලා එකක් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙනවා. රාශිගතව නෙමෙයි, ප්‍රසිද්ධියේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට. ඊට පස්සේ පෙට්‍රල්, ඩීසල් ඒ ආකාරයෙන්ම ප්‍රමාණාත්මකව අඩු කරනවා. ශ්‍රී ලංකාව තෙල් පෙට්‍රෝල් නිෂ්පාදනය කරන රටක් නෙමෙයි. පිට රටින් ගේන්න ඕනේ. But to import you need foreign exchange. When the last government fell, we did not have funds to import our essentials. That's how the scarcity came, rocketed prices.
But our young Kanchana Wijayasekara, as minister in charge of this very wonderful commodity which we don't have, which we have to import, for which we didn't have any money, has done pretty well with the QR code.
Very much. A young man who has taken on the subject has performed very well, and the entire cabinet backing him has been able to cushion off, and everyone accepts it's cushion
It's
off.
better management, isn't it?
Exactly, better management, better supply, and also the requirements being brought on time, etc. Electricity prices have reduced. Everyone was critical last year, I agree. But now it started being put down, helping the industry, helping the household, helping the general economy. So the difficulty of foreign exchange, that was a major crisis. President was, as Minister of Finance, also able to intervene with the IMF, World Bank, ADB, and our friendly countries, Paris Club, India, China, Japan, USA, all came to our help. So the one part of the crisis is how we could earn more foreign exchange. That was a very difficult time. Still we are going that difficult times. But we are on track. But we have to reduce our costs. The other factor I must mention is how our foreign exchange could flow faster. There was tourism was at the minimum at that time.
Yes.
Now we have made a tremendous breakthrough.
Indeed.
The tourists are here. Those countries are interested, and they go also. In addition to their studies, they go and report. Sri Lanka has come back. It's so nice to visit, etc. That is also a message.
Yes, and what is it that your government is doing to bring political stability to the country? What have you done? How have you achieved that?
Political stability has been a problem which caused fall of many governments.
Indeed.
Not only Sri Lanka. You know, since 1947, father of the nation taking office, Prime Minister D.S.A. Nayaka, every government has been a coalition. As you manage well, you can keep the coalition going. If you can't manage well, it collapses. That is part of the political stability because we are a parliamentary democracy. Except for Mrs. Bandaranaike, once had a mandate on her own, but still she could not later on do without the LSSP and the CP. And immediately her government collapsed when she invited them to a coalition.
Indeed.
The history. So running a coalition is half of the story for political stability. Political stability is also to a great degree influenced by economic stability. Because economic stability brings all day-to-day life as well as political thinking onto different platform. I think the President very clearly, irrespective of political loyalties, everyone, I agree with you what he said, everyone accepts that he has brought Sri Lanka out of this crisis. We have stopped printing of money. Printing of money is inflationary.
And now you have an act to control that.
We have an act, everyone agreed, there has to be an act, criticized us, but they criticized the President, but it is now constitutionally passed.
Indeed.
We had to work within the framework.
As just like you have your economic regeneration.
Very much the economic regeneration, we were on many matters. On the GDP, the growth was minus. Since last year, I'm not talking from our point of view. The international agencies have very clearly said, now you're on the positive growth, you follow the path, it will be faster growth, and we are proud to say we are on this positive path. President is therefore inviting entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka, our entrepreneurs, international investors, new technology, as the forward growing economic recovery. This is the way forward, and our neighboring countries are all in agreement. If you would allow me just one more point. Since he took office, I've been Minister of Public Administration.
Indeed.
1.4 million public servants have always been paid their salary and also got an increase twice now. The pensioners, 600,000 pensioners, all have been paid their pensions. We are not deprived with difficulty. Some are collecting the revenue, we have been able to pay them. Take Greece, what happened to the government servants, pensioners? Take Portugal, what happened to the government service and pensioners? So many models. So President has followed a development model to move out of the crisis, as well as look after the difficult sections of society while we raise our head step by step.
And Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, may I impose upon you, may I ask you to say what you just did in Sinhalese for the benefit of our Sinhala audience on ITN?
මම තාම පැහැදිලිව කියා සිටියේ ආර්ථික ප්‍රපාතයට වැටුණු දවසේ ඉඳලා ජනාධිපතිතුමා පත් වුණු දවසේ ඉඳලා එතුමාට අත්‍යවශ්‍ය ද්‍රව්‍ය ගෙනීමට අවශ්‍ය වූ ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයට බැසලා එම විදුලිය බල ශක්තියට සම්බන්ධ අංශ යලි යථා තත්ත්වයට ගේන්න පුළුවන් වුණා. එදා හිංගයක් තිබුණා මේවා වල. ඒ නිසා පෝලිං තිබුණා. රැට නිින්ද ගියේ නැහැ විදුලිය නැති නිසා. ඔව්. නමුත් ඒ තත්ත්වයන් නිවැරදි කරලා ආර්ථික ගමනට විශ්වාසය ජාත්‍යන්තරව ලබාගෙන තියෙනවා. ඉතින් IMF ලෝක බැංකුව ආසියානු සංවර්ධන බැංකුව අපේ මිත්‍ර රටවල් සියල්ල අපිට මේ අර්බුදයෙන් ගොඩ එන්න පුළුවන් අත දුන්නා. පළවෙනි අස්වැන්නටම අපි සහන දුන්නා ජනාධිපතිතුමා. ගොවි ජනතාව අපේ රටේ 70%කට වැඩි නිසා දෙවෙනි අස්වැන්නේදී අතිරික්තයක්. They brought a surplus. I have met foreign
and the pensions and the
විශ්‍රාමිකයන් සියලු ගෙනාගේ විශ්‍රාමය අපි ගෙව්වා. රාජ්‍ය සේවකයන් ලක්ෂ 14 මාරකට වැටුප ගෙවුවා මාසෙනකොට. සමහර දවස් තිබුණා එතුමයි මමයි කතා කරමින් දින අහවල් දින වෙනකොට රාජ්‍ය ආදායම් කොහොමද තියෙයිද මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට කියලා. ඒ නිසා අපි එලෙස සැලකමින් ඒ බරාරුම් අංශ වෙනත් රටවල් කරපු දේ නොකර මේ රටේ රාජ්‍ය සේවකයන්ට හා විශ්‍රාමිකයන්ගේ එදිනෙදා කටයුතු ඒ වගේම යම් දේවල් වැඩි කරන්න පුළුවන්කම ඇති වුණා. රාජ්‍ය සේවකයන්ට දැනුත් යෝජනා කළා තියෙනවා. යලිත් වැඩපිළිවෙලකින් වැඩිවීම. ඒ වගේම විශ්‍රාමිකයන්ගේ බලාපොරොත්තු. ඒ වගේම අනිත් අංශවල සේවකයන්ට රාජ්‍ය පෞද්ගලික අංශය. රාජ්‍ය විතර නෙමෙයි පෞද්ගලික අංශයට විදුලි මිල අඩු කරමින් නිෂ්පාදන වියදම අඩු කරගන්න. එහෙම නැත්නම් ගෑස් ප්‍රශ්නෙට හිර වී තිබුණු කර්මාන්ත ශාලා. මේ නිසා සමස්ත ලෙස ලෝකේ ජාත්‍යන්තර ආයතන සියල්ල අපි ගැන තදබල විවේචනයකින් හිටපු ආයතන කිය. අපිටත් කිව්වා දැන් ඍණ ආර්ථික තත්ත්වයකින් ධන ආර්ථික වර්ධනයකට ශ්‍රී ලංකාව පැමිණ තියෙනවා. සංචාරකෝ පැමිණ අය පුදුමාකාර වැඩිවීමක්. ඒ පණිවිඩය අරන් යනවා ඒ රටවල් වලට. ආයෝජකයන්ට ආරාධනය කරලා අලුත් වැඩපිළිවෙලකට මේ පුළුවන් කියන විශ්වාසය රටට ලබා දී ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඒ අලුත් වැඩපිළිවෙලේ තොරතුරු තාක්ෂණය ඩිජිටල් කරණය තුළින් වියදම් අඩු කර ගැනීම හා අපනයනය වැඩි කර ගැනීමට පුළුවන් ඉලක්කයන්ට ගමන් කරනවා. අඩු ආදායම් ජනතාවගේ ප්‍රශ්නයද ආද අපි බලලා තියෙන්නේ අපේ රජයේ වැඩ කරමින් සිටිනේ අනිත් මෙවැනි අර්බුදවලට වැටුණු රටවල් අනුගමනය කරපු ක්‍රමය 100% නොවේ. ඊට වඩා මහජනයා සමග කිට්ටුවෙන් ඔවුන්ගේ ප්‍රශ්න දිහා සහන පැත්තත් බලමින් කියන දේ මම කියන්න ඕනේ.
And Prime Minister, whilst your government has been obviously focusing on the economic recovery and getting us going again, what of the national question, the national reconciliation? Has that taken a back seat?
No,
or is it part of a sort of dual track policy? We're doing this, but we're also doing this.
Yeah, economic essential is now very much the highest priority. All of us in Parliament, whether from the north, east or south, we accept that.
Yeah.
On that track, we are moving in discussion with all the political parties on issues that are specific and needs changes that should take place. In Geneva, our position has been consistent. But we have also appointed the committees, finances supplied to those missing persons commission and those commissions to function. So there is a dialogue moving positively forward. President himself has gone to the north and the east so many times as president. That's a big positive thing. Our presidents did not go to the north.
Yeah.
As Prime Minister, I have gone to the north, had very close discussions on the issues they are facing. So it is on. There has to be administrative and other changes that have to take place. And President, restoring democracy, will move forward. There is a possibility of all the three candidates in this election today.
Yeah.
I don't want to make name, but the key candidates have all pledged they'll dissolve Parliament, immediately getting re-elected. Some don't have even a majority in Parliament, so they will be forced to dissolve. So this is all great talk and figures which don't work, I must say. President will keep to the pledge as he pledged, I will hold the presidential election according to the constitution. Now it is on. I will follow up with the parliamentary so that a new parliament can take over. So we are moving on all the different areas of cooperation, dialogue and understanding with all ethnic groups in our country.
See, you've described pretty well the government steps towards restoring our international relationships which were, shall we say, somewhat damaged in the past, but it's on its way up again. In the meantime, Prime Minister, how do you view what is happening in the Palestine, in the Gaza? The children who at one stage 6 per second were dying, and some of the superpowers simply did nothing more than ignore this. Various international news channels presented the flip side of those stories. But how does our government, your government, the people of Sri Lanka, how are we viewing that? What's happening in
the international community did have resolutions at the UN. Sri Lanka did stand by in solidarity with the people of Palestine. Our permanent delegate voted for, with the entirety of the UN members, where the Secretary General called for de-escalation at the very beginning, ceasefire, and virtual terrible human injustice that has happened today of even children being assassinated by heavy bombing. We have taken that position, but this president has gone further by establishing fund to start schools for these children in Palestine. Some are without parents, some are without their own homes. Our position has been that. So the world powers, whatever they pursue, sometimes countries in majority, here at the UN it's more than majority, has condemned and called for a stop to this. Sri Lanka's taken that position. Whatever we could send, the private sector and others are helping the UN food programs to these areas. Of course, Sri Lanka is not a military power.
No.
We are a neutral, non-aligned country. It is the military powers who are fighting.
Indeed. But the Arab world will never forget the actions of one Mrs. Gunawardena, and that has held Sri Lanka in good stead. Tea is one of a huge export, and the Arab world is perhaps the largest buyer of tea. Is that something that you, with your political ideology, that you come forward with that and gives you strength? Does it give you strength to move forward in this current period of time?
Yeah, tea is one of the biggest exporters to the Middle East Gulf, in addition to Russia. We can improve more of the tea export, but it is not tea. It is the people who are losing their lives, children who are dying, for which whatever way of cushioning, Sri Lanka has always stood by. And as you mentioned, Mrs. Gunawardena, our Prime Minister, who set the ball rolling by holding the non-aligned conference in Colombo, bringing all these countries, made a tremendous change and strength to Sri Lanka's foreign policy. All governments have pursued that. We are not reversed. So, but times are changing, technology is changing.
Indeed.
There's human invasions, there's armies moving.
Indeed.
But also today with high tech, you can sit and destroy one whole area.
Absolutely.
So it is a approach that we have to take with the countries together in order to keep the lives going and see that this finally ends up so that Palestinian people could rebuild their nation.
Coming back home, it's election times. The public are told by all sorts of people, and it's all about the high cost of living. And people are saying, talk about the IMF, and they're saying, well, we'll renegotiate and we'll reduce the taxes, we'll do this, we'll do that. Frankly, it's confusing. What do you say? Is this possible? You must have been privy to all these arrangements as a Prime Minister. Is it possible to change this IMF agreement, renegotiate it, without upsetting the apple cart, meaning without upsetting the stability, the economic stability?
We have passed the framework or the budgetary proposals as well as the next 3 years, especially our budget program, which had been discussed with the IMF and others. It had come to Parliament and it had been passed. So you have to stick to this framework. 17 times Sri Lanka has gone to the IMF. 17 times. Perhaps some of them don't know this ABC. 17 times our governments have gone. Some other agreements we have deviated. As a result, perhaps it's arguable whether those are plus or minuses for Sri Lanka, but when you deviate in international borrowing, it's a very serious problem. You know, any one of the so-called finance ministers who are to come, I don't know who they are, because their arguments in parliament contradict each other. Now they are contradicting further by saying, we will not discuss, we will not obey. What do they want? Economic chaos? Economic chaos. We need foreign exchange flowing to Sri Lanka and in the reserves to keep the country growing at this rate. We are also borrowed heavily in the international markets. We have been negotiating and successful in reducing certain amounts, and also we had to start repaying and build confidence for new investors. If you are serious in running economy and governing Sri Lanka, these are key elements on which I don't think any political aspirant can ignore and make statements just for the sake of making statements.
And how will your government ensure that this economic development will be spread across the country, not to benefit a few of the elite?
Yeah, we are in a situation similar to the other countries for us. Since COVID, the world has not come back to its original growth situation, which has affected many countries. Now, the question you ask, how are you going to help the people in difficulty?
Indeed.
That's included in our program. That's why I said we have not followed the models that had been before, or our professional people uttered when the crisis was to be handled by us, the president who was taken over. They said these things will happen, millions will be out of jobs, industry will everything close down if you are following this path. People will die in hunger. No, we have a specific program, assessment plus other subsidies for the poor. We will maintain this and see that the rate of the growing number of the poor will be settled by giving necessary concessions. Now, even in his program, he meant of 100,000 young entrepreneurs to emerge, which is all allocated funds.
So what you're saying, Prime Minister, is that your government, President Wickremesinghe's government, which you're part of, you all have not been shy to abandon bankrupt economic policies and to adopt and adapt new theories more suitable for the position we are in. Is that about right?
That's why the president has very clearly said, අපට පුළුවන් අපේ රටට පුළුවන් බව ඔප්පු කළා තියෙනවා. We showed to the country in 2 years that it can come out of this. And also we have new proposals that have been presented to the country. President is confident. We also accept that the private sector, entrepreneur class, can play a bigger role than today, for which we are totally extending our support through the banking and other investment new regulations that will further accelerate the growth. Now, only taking the IMF is not the only thing. There can be growth.
So we need a dual track policy.
Very much. More tea to be produced, more fish to be caught. IMF is not talking about fish Sri Lanka can catch. They say don't catch.
Yeah.
So this, I can give so many extra examples like that.
So this is a plan that's working.
It is the plan that
It's
is
not
working.
a promised theory.
More opportunities for the youth, more opportunities for the Sri Lankan entrepreneur class and to women to play a role in our economic recovery.
So finally, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, Sri Lanka can. Puluang Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka can. පුළුවන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා. අපිට ඒ විශ්වාසය තියෙනවා. අප රටවැසියා ගැනයි මේ අපි ගෙන යන වැඩපිළිවෙලට රටවැසියා ලබා දී තියෙන සහයෝගය මතයි.
Thank you very much.
Ayubowan.
Jaweva. Thank you. And that's the way it was on the Turning Point for ITN Sri Lanka with our very special guest, the Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Mr. Dinesh Gunawardena. Thank you and bless you all.